like my good.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. Barbara, could you please call the roll?
Okay, we have Commissioner Sales, Moss, and Noonan present.
Thank you. As you know, this will be recorded on Channel 35. Let's start with our GM report.
Thank you. Commissioners, we have in many of our meetings, as we go through the review of the various contracts for equipment and services and construction that we do, we often discuss the issues and provisions with respect to local preference and trying to do what we can do to have local suppliers of these services in recognition of certainly where we are in the economy right now, and at any point in time, to the extent that we have qualified local service providers would like to be able to do that. For some time, the City Council has been working on pulling together a plan for that, and last Friday, October 14th, City Council moved to adopt an ordinance that would provide for local bid preference. This is it's a fairly lengthy document. I don't intend to go over it here today, but it does provide for up to an 8% point advantage for qualified local businesses in both Los Angeles and Los Angeles County, the city and the county, for equipment, for services, construction, and these will be for contracts that are over $150,000, and it's my understanding that would be a benefit of up to $1 million of benefit in those point counting. We are presently reviewing that ordinance, and we will be have us look at it internally as well as have counsel for us review this, and we will present it to you in more detail at an upcoming board meeting soon, and through that process determine whether you would desire simply to adopt it, which we have been encouraged to do, and at least from my own perspective, I'm very interested in having something seriously like this, or whether you would want to consider any adjustments to that. So we'll have a much more detailed review of that, having just seen it go through council. But it's an issue that if you ultimately decide to go through with that, we'll make some changes with respect to how we go out for procurements and the instructions that we give for procurements and how we would evaluate those going forward. So more to come on that, but it's a step towards doing what at least I know several of the commissioners have indicated interest in seeing what we can do to try to provide more opportunity for local businesses in the services and goods that we contract out.
I think that you will get a lot of support from this board. The one question I have is, since this is applied county-wide, are other cities going to be providing reciprocity for the city of Los Angeles? So as you go through your review, you could just let us know whether or not that's the case.
Sure, we'll look into that.
Okay, I do have one speaker card for item 2. Speaker is Dr. Williams.
Dr. Tom Williams from Northeast LA, El Sereno, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, and the DWP liaison for that council. General Manager forgot to mention the Office of Public Accountability and what's going on there. It seems to be a very messy situation, and I don't know how the General Manager can promote getting it done and getting the Office of Public Accountability set up, its executive director appointed, and if it's different, and they don't even know that yet, a ratepayers advocate within and under the executive director. So should fill out that part also. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. General Manager?
No, thank you.
Comments relating to operations from commissioners? I think we're aware that Commissioner Noonan had made a request regarding the use of plastic versus iron cast piping, right? And right. I assume you guys are still considering that, and you'll come back with the report in the not-too-distant future?
We are, and Jim McDaniel is out today. Marty, I don't know if you have an update
I think you're planning on reporting next board meeting.
Right, thanks.
Good. Commissioner Newton?
President Sales, with all due respect, I think it's very important that this is a public forum, because during my tenure as a commissioner, this question has arose in many, many events in different circumstances. So I think that I'd like to hear not only from the department, but also from outside sources, including other cities, other municipalities that have opted to use this more cost-effective method, and to see how it's worked out for them over the past decade or more.
Commissioner, you're correct. I recall you specifically requested that last time, and we are working towards getting some input on that as well.
Okay,
And
thank you.
provide them.
Thank you. Anything else on operations?
I have a couple things, three things.
Okay.
First item is I'd like to know where we are with the Sodexo agreement for the cafeteria downstairs. Well, go ahead, Mr. Wong.
We'll defer that to Gary Wong, because he is the one who's been dealing on that
Okay.
issue.
That agreement was approved, and we are working with Sodexo to get them back up to speed.
Okay, will that be coming before the commission then?
I believe that was approved at the meeting you missed.
Oh, okay. Well, that's very good then. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm sorry, I thought your
now I'm-
question,
now I'm up to speed.
I thought your question was on with respect to the implementation of the contract.
Well, no, actually, it was even more basic than that.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you. Second item, when are we going to see the budget again? Because as I understand, we were going to have to take another look at the budget given the rate increase situation going on right now. So I was just wondering what the, when we should expect to see that again.
You're going to see the budget in two pieces, basically. Number one, we need to go back and have you formally, at least we believe you should, it's kind of we're operating a little bit of an unusual circumstance here in that we presented a budget to you for this current fiscal year before this year began. And that was predicated on as you'll recall, on an assumed level of rate adjustment. And then we later came back to you and presented to you what we call the zero budget, zero rate adjustment budget for the balance for fiscal 11-12. We want to come back to you with now what that budget looks like for the balance of the year. So it's the balance of this year, where we are, how that looks, what are the consequences of that if that were to be the case, which isn't necessarily the case, but just so you're updated on that. And then in addition, this is the year now, in response to the prior voter resolution, that we will be accelerating our budget. So we will be coming back to the full board here with our projection of what would be a zero budget, zero rate adjustment for fiscal year 12-13. Not that we in any way believe that's something that is sustainable, frankly, but to present to you what that is. We've been requested by the City Administrative Office on that in the council to provide a budget on that basis, and we will be presenting that to you as well in within December, early December timeframe.
Okay, good.
If not earlier.
All right, great, thank you. And then the last item is just a request. I know that there was a report commissioned, I believe, with the Cosmont companies with respect to excess property in the DWP portfolio, and I'd like to get a briefing on that, on where we're at with that process at the next board meeting.
We would please do that. We have a draft of that report. We're still working through, and we sent it back to them for some additional input and clarification on some of that. But it should be. Can you be ready?
Certainly within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We got a pretty crowded agenda in the next meeting, but within the next 2 meetings.
Okay, that's fine. Just I want to keep that moving along because we've not had a briefing on it, and it's an important item.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That's
Anything
it.
else from either one of the
Thank you.
commissioners? Okay. Public comment, I believe we have.
We have about 5 cards now
Okay.
for public comment.
Okay.
Okay, the first speaker is Dr. Tom Williams.
Dr. Williams?
Dr. Tom Williams again from LA 32 Neighborhood Council. The other day we were discussing the Office of Public Accountability and approximately what rank should it be compared to the DWP structure. However, we started trying to find a structure for this organization. An org chart, organization chart. Strategic plans were done a couple years ago. I would assume that they would have had some sort of organization chart for the entire DWP. We started looking at the staffing and found, well, there are 28 divisions, elements within the joint system. There's only 5 within the water system, and there are 8 in the power system. But we can't find a chart that says, okay, here's the general manager, here's what a chief operating officer or chief executive officer is or does, and who he reports to or she reports to, and who reports to them. This is a multi-billion-dollar, world's largest municipal utility, and we don't have an org chart that's online? Seems kind of strange. But if it can be made, I'd surely like to have it, especially since there was a comment done in, or issue done in January 29, 2010. Organization charts. Divisions will provide the budget office with an organization chart indicating the number of employees assigned to each function and or minor organization. Was that ever done? Don't know, but right now, online, you cannot find an organization chart showing even the first, second, third tier, not to make mention of all the elements down below that. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Linda Romney.
Yes, I would like to address a very important issue, and that has to do with requests in writing on the Public Informations Act. I just came from downstairs. I made requests going back to the year 2009 repeatedly. This is now 2011, and those simple requests that I made are not in the file. Specifically, I had asked for a hard copy that was completed by my investigator in the San Fernando Valley Investigative Division, Bob, memorialized in writing on November 9th of 2009, not in the file. I asked for the number of cases that were heard by your hearing officer, Ms. Marino, and how many, if any, of those hearings were favorable to your ratepayers. Nothing in the file. I asked for a copy of the proposal, which she had presented to the DWP, and it made reference to those proposals, but nothing was in the file. A bunch of blank pages. I also had requested the policy and practice in writing for the Department of Water and Power to respond to written correspondence by their ratepayers. Nothing in the file. I don't know what's occurring here, but when your ratepayers send letter after letter after letter under the Public Information Act, and there is absolutely nothing in the file, and yet it makes reference to it, so it does exist. You have a safety valve, and that's your commission hearing, and there is nothing that is in the file. And I'm just stating that you're already seeing the riots that are occurring and the people taking to the streets. You don't want that happening as far as the DWP. But what you're doing is you're not responding at all to your ratepayers. This situation must be corrected. There's a law, and the DWP is not following it. Thank you.
In order to do this, I want to make sure. So you're saying you did not get a response to any of these records? Requests?
Nothing, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And I was just down there again today. Thank you.
The next speaker is Brian Patton.
Hi, my name is Brian Patton, and I'm representing my mother who lives in the San Fernando Valley. She's owned her house now for about 20 years, and she's been a ratepayer longer than that. And these rate hikes would, she's borderline losing her home now. And these rate hikes are a thing that could possibly force her to lose her home and be put out to possibly a very small apartment, or be losing her possessions into the home and wind up with nothing at all. And there are thousands of people like this across Los Angeles County, in which where the DWP serves. So I would just like to make this clear to everyone that these are people we're dealing with, not numbers and digits or anything like that. You know, these are human beings that we have to consider around here. So we have to really consider what we're doing here with these rate hikes, because they really do have an effect, and then it can have a reverse effect, which can be very negative on the DWP afterwards. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is John Camara.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today at City Council, item 7, council members were trying to define what waste, fraud, and abuse is. Mr. Brown, you have seen waste, fraud, and abuse go on under your office and have done nothing, sir. I'm here to ask you on behalf of the people of this city to step down and resign. Thank you.
The next speaker is Candida Morez.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Sales, Mr. Nichols. You know, I was advised to keep my mouth shut and that I shouldn't be here, but God didn't put me on this earth to keep my mouth shut and be quiet. As a little boy growing up in Colorado, as being an American of Hispanic and Native American descent, we were sometimes slapped on the hand for speaking out in our native language. But today, I have to speak because, you know, we hear from people like Brian Patton, who moved in with his mother because his mother's afraid of losing her home. City Council is talking about waste, fraud, and abuse and trying to define it. I've been doing that for 7 years, and here I am, and I'm not going away, because unless we change the environment here, and it has changed. I want to thank all of you. It has changed, because I've seen the changes take place. But this past weekend we honored Martin Luther King, and he was a great man who had a lot of great sayings. And one of my favorite was that an injustice here is an injustice everywhere. And if you allow something to take place here and you do nothing about it, you're wrong. If an employee who sees fraud, waste, and abuse is punished because he reports it, that's wrong. When a woman is harassed sexually and nobody does anything about it, it's wrong. When a person of a minority, or even today, because if you're a Caucasian, you're a minority, if you're abused and nobody does anything about it and stands by and watches it, it's wrong. So, again, maybe I should have stood home, but I can't, because as a little boy, somebody told me I had no voice. Today I have a voice, and all I've asked ever since I've been here is that people be treated with dignity and respect, and that we have accountability. And I thank you for the work. And Mr. Nichols, in my opinion section a couple of weeks ago, I stated that you were the right man for the job, but that you needed the help of the people. And the people out there really do want to see you succeed, sir. So we thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the last card for number 4.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 6th and September 12th?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll turn now to the consent agenda. Are there any items that the commissioners would like to pull off the consent agenda?
Number 11, please.
11. Okay, so may I have a motion to approve items 9 and 10?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objections, those pass. We have speaker cards, starting with item 6.
Yes, I believe the card is to speak on 6, 7, and 8. It's Mr. Merez.
Okay.
Once again, I'd like to thank Ms. Noonan for your courage, and again, I bow to you. But this local preference for small businesses has been something that we've been trying to secure for many, many years. When the convention center was being built back in, the early 80s, other cities were bidding for a lot of the jobs, especially like the restaurant equipment, et cetera. And the city of Los Angeles actually awarded I know there was one company in Cincinnati who outbid a company here locally. And yet when the company from here went to Cincinnati to bid on a job there, the company in Cincinnati was given a 10%. So again, it's time that we do this. But it's also important that we fix our foundation. And it's been proven over and over again that the Department of Water and Power needs to revamp their procurement process. We know it. We see these contracts all the time. And again, Ms. Noonan, thank you for bringing up the issue of the pipe. I know we have the talent. I know we have the ability. I know that we now have the desire. But are we strong enough to push forth those efforts? Because, again, people say that the protesters down around City Hall and throughout really have no idea what they're doing. Yes, they do. They know what their agenda is. They're fighting against waste, fraud, and abuse. And you can only push people so far and so hard. And the sad part about this is a group of people are being pointed out, and they're being said that they're the ones that are behind this, and they're a small minority who just are very active in business, and it's sad to see that somebody would be targeted just because they're successful. So, again, I hope that we'll do the right thing.
Thank you. Before I ask for a motion on this, I want to make one point on item 7, where we make the statement that good faith effort is not required. I think I've said this before, but I may not have been as clear as I'm going to be today. I'm not going to approve a single contract that makes, the others may, that makes this claim unless you back it up. The conclusory statement is not enough. So if the next one comes in here, it can be the best contract in the world. If there's no explanation, I'm going to vote against it, because I think the people have a right to know why we're making that decision and for it to be spelled out. All right, so if we're clear. So with that, are there motions to approve items 6, 7, and 8?
So moved.
Second.
Any objections? Those items are passed. Thank you. Item 11. I think we have, no card, but I think Commissioner Noonan had questions. Who can respond to item 11?
I can.
Okay. You have questions?
Okay. Well, obviously, having read the approval memo, being in real estate, this lease reads so differently than most of the leases that I have reviewed and negotiated. And I understand that this is a lease with the University of California. So I just want to understand if there's the favored nations, because there's many things that just are not market. And I'll go through my list, and then perhaps you can just address them individually or as a whole. But we're talking about 54 acres of land, and you're charging this entity only $1,100 a month. And you're keeping that schedule very limited to 5 years, yet they have the right to renew the lease without a strict renewal option, without a defined fair market value, without certified appraisers indefinitely for another 25 years, which is something that I've never seen in the past 17 years that I've been in real estate. The other thing that concerned me was during the renegotiation of rent, quote unquote, the property would be seen as available to the open market for new leasing opportunities, and the property will be considered vacant and available to be leased to the same uses permitted under this lease. Why would we constrict ourselves to an educational facility? Should they relocate, why wouldn't we open this up to the entire market? Why would we constrict ourselves to only being able to negotiate with other educational facilities? Talks about a master plan, and the language is very vague, subject to revision. By whom? By them? By us? Is it under mutual consent? Termination right. Either party, basically without penalty, has the right to terminate the lease within 365 days. And in our business, that's very rare. And usually if a lessee terminates the lease, there's usually some kind of penalty. Holdover, if they hold over 105%, typically it's 150 to 200%. So I need you to educate me if we're making all of these generosities because this is a UC school, and I hope that not all of DWP's leases read this way, or else we have serious issues with your real estate department.
No, this lease is particularly written because of the nature of the organization and the research that's going on. The property would almost certainly not be used for anything if it wasn't for this research lab that was sought by the University of California, about 40 years ago. And so they do research in the Sierra Nevada. The research has potential to benefit the department. And that's really why we allowed their presence on the property, was they needed a site to do this sort of thing. The lease rate per acre is very low. It's more of a token amount rather than a real cost. I don't know that we would allow any other kind of use of the property other than some kind of educational research facility because I don't think that would be consistent with the area.
The other thing that was missing, which I thought was just so strange, we're talking about 54 acres, and it talks about all of these buildings to house students, research facilities, but there's no square footage outlined in the lease, which I find odd.
Right, and it's probably not very clear. The buildings don't take up 54 acres, and because it's department property, they can't make any improvements or do any additions or anything on the property without us reviewing what they plan to do. So we do maintain review control over any actions they take on the property.
Well, there's certain contingencies, because I read the lease. So, I mean, under a certain amount, they can. Over a certain amount, they need our approval.
Right.
But there is mention of a master plan, and it says subject to revision, but it doesn't even identify by whom. It doesn't say that they need our approval to move forward on the master plan. So I don't know if the legal experts were having a bad day or tired, or it just
I'm not
seems
sure
odd.
that, but the plan is that we would review their master plan.
It doesn't state that.
Yeah. And then maybe an oversight on the lease. Their presence has increased on the property over the years as research has continued. They're interested in getting this 30-year lease, and the reason we put a price for the first 5 years, saying that we would renegotiate after that. They've been selected for a national program for environmental research, and so that program's a 30-year program. So that's to be able to compete for that program and get grant funding for that, they needed to have a 30-year lease. The previous leases were not this long.
Excuse me, I'm still not clear. Why is this in the department's best interest? I understand why it's helping UC, and I used to be a regent, so I get all that. Why is this in the department's best interest?
It's really more the department cooperating for the greater public good. There's no downside to the department per se. We have not been trying to make a money maker off this necessarily like with a commercial lease, but it's really been more of a public benefit and with some side benefits.
I'm not sure that's our business, to be honest with you. Our business is here to benefit our ratepayers. And if we can get of a higher market rate for this, why shouldn't we, unless there's some compelling reason not to go after market rates?
Well, we
Is
could.
this
I don't know if
research directly benefiting DWP?
There are benefits, some more direct than others, depending on what the research is doing. A lot of stream science and stream biology science that does have impacts and benefits to us. Not all of it as directly beneficial to us, but it does impact our operations in the Owens Valley, and we do learn from it.
So it's a favor to the University of California. That's why we're doing this. Is that the short answer?
I don't know if I'd call it a favor, but it's a benefit to the University of California.
In my opinion, it's a favor, because not only are they spending $1,100 for 54 acres, but they also get unlimited water free of cost. Which, I mean, if I'm all about supporting our educational facilities, but there's just so many things that I've never seen in a lease before. And what concerns me is if there was a 5-year cap, that'd be one thing, but the fact that this can run indefinitely for 30 years, well, I guess we do have the equal right to terminate after 365 days, so maybe that's some kind of saving grace, but it's just a very odd lease, very odd.
And this is not like our commercial leases are, obviously.
I hope not.
And I would also like to weigh in on a point, though, that Marty indicated up front. That is, were it not for their use of this land would just simply go unused. This is not land that likely has a commercial value to us. It would just sit there as open space.
Why, in that case, though, please indulge me, in that case, why would you specifically insert the language that during the renegotiation of the rent, you could only look at educational users for that space? Why would the department confine themselves to only being able to market themselves to educational users? Why not open the arena during a renegotiation?
Well, I guess the way I look at it is we do have a 1-year termination. If for some reason during the course of this, the value and the interest in properties around there, somehow land use has changed or some other value was there, we can terminate the lease or open up any other term that we might want to do as a condition of avoiding termination of the lease or renegotiating it with that kind of notice.
With all due respect, I think we have complete leverage in the situation, and I don't understand why we would resort to using a 365 window period to market ourselves to other users should this agreement not work out in 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
I have a question. Obviously, there's been a history of UC's use of this property in this manner. Have we done any joint research projects with UC during that time? Has there been any, again, you said that there were some direct benefits to DWP. Can you enumerate what some of those have been?
I don't know exactly offhand in detail. I know that they're doing stream flow work, which is beneficial to our own stream flow work. I don't think we've had any direct studies that we've conducted together. There are a couple places in the Department of Property with our vast land holdings that we've allowed educational facilities because it's hard for educational facilities to find property, and there are places that we would not make commercially available otherwise. And this is one of those. Like I say, there's this NEON project, which is a national, I can't remember the name of it, Ecological Observatory Network that may have some benefit for our global warming studies and understanding snowpack in the future. So them being located there would probably be a direct benefit to us. But it's a research and place where people go to get higher scientific degrees, and they do stream flow studies in the Sierras as part of their educational program.
Have we been able to in any way leverage our relationship with UC on this property and any other areas of DWP's work? I mean, have we had cooperative relations with UC as a result, in part as a result of having this history with them?
We have a good working relationship. We haven't had any downsides per se. We haven't had a laundry list of things that we've wanted them to do for us necessarily. But you may recall about maybe a month or two ago, there was a board item for increasing it was called the Solar Telescope Array, and the name and solar kind of got everyone's attention. But that was telescopes on water and power property in the Owens Valley floor that look, and it's a research facility. It's property that otherwise would go unused. It's a use that's acceptable to the surrounding community, whereas a commercial use probably would not be acceptable to the surrounding community, and being consistent with some of the agreements that we have in the Owens Valley. So it's a long-standing historical use that most of these educational facilities are.
So let me try to cut through all this. There really is no other market for this today.
There's not.
Right. So the fact that we have a market is a benefit to DFP.
And I think if we tried to market for something else, we'd probably get a lot of pushback.
On the other hand, I think what Commissioner Noonan is raising is what happens if that changes? Are we putting ourselves in a position where should market conditions change, that we could take advantage of that change? So I think what she's concerned about primarily is limiting the potential reuses of the property in terms of an alternative lessee. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. I mean, I do think that if there truly is no market for this land currently, I think just giving them the use of the land and the structures for $1,100 a month on 54 acres is very generous. Why provide all the built-in flexibility on both parts for them to be able to renew indefinitely for, an additional 25 years? Why not have certified appraisers? That's just unheard of. And I mean, a lot of these provisions, we're already being generous, and I'm all about supporting our educational facilities. At the same token, we're doing, in my opinion, we're doing them a favor, at least in the immediate 5 years. Why pledge to that for another 25 years?
Commissioner Moss, any other comments?
No.
Is there a motion? I think you need to go back.
Actually, I'd like a little bit more, if I could offer. Perhaps you could provide a little bit more color on this, Marty, when we discuss this. My understanding is the term for the duration of this and desire for it was tied to them being able to represent that they could qualify for another program that would give them long-term funding, and it was for that reason they were looking for the longer term and some reasonable assurance related to this
That's
property.
correct. They have to show that they have use of the property for the duration of the study. So that's
Which is reasonable. The question is, what's in it for us? They get a contract, right? So what do we get? There should be something we're going to trade for that. If it's research, I'm not here trying to figure out or try to recraft the contract.
In terms of direct benefits, we have not identified any, other than the minor amount of money. There's ancillary benefits, but not a direct ask from us that we would have something in return.
Okay. What's the feeling of the commissioners?
Well, I'm torn. I'm very strong proponent of research and education, and I hear what Commissioner Noonan is saying, and I don't disagree with some of her conclusions. On the other hand, UC's under a lot of pressure right now. This is an ongoing relationship that we've had with UC at this particular site for a very long time. Apparently, Santa Barbara is lucked out and is up for a long-term research award connected directly to this property. I would hate to see causing that kind of damage simply because we're a little uncomfortable with what might happen in the future on this thing. This property has a history of being a research facility. Let it be a research facility.
What's the timing on this?
Well, right now we're on a month-to-month lease, so the previous lease ran out while we were negotiating this, so they're just on a month-to-month holdover.
And when does their bid due for this?
They've been approved. I don't know if they have what the exact due date, but they've been approved for the study. So I don't know when it starts per se.
I would like to ask, since we're down to only 3 commissioners here, that maybe we get the wisdom of the balance of our commissioners, and maybe we defer this to the next meeting, and maybe in the meantime you can contact and get some more information about what exactly is going on this property and how there might be some direct benefits for DWP as a result of this transaction.
Is there a motion to defer?
So moved.
Is there a second?
So moved. Second. Sorry.
Any objection? Hearing none. Let's defer the item. I do think it's probably in your best interest to spend some time with Commissioner Noonan, and maybe you can figure out a way to to just craft some advantages for the department. We clearly want to help UC. On the other hand, we want to help. Our primary obligation is to the ratepayers here. So we always want to extract whatever benefits we can from those ratepayers. It's that balance we're trying to strike. Okay, so that item is deferred. Item 12, who's presenting? This is the wire and cable. Mr. Aaron?
Commissioners, this is a contract for procuring different sizes of cable that we use in our system, from communications control to medium voltage cable and high voltage cable. The two companies that we would like to get the award to is the South Wire Company for the different groups that they were the most responsible and the lowest bidder on, and then the Wesco Distribution Company, which has the different the rest of the groups. In your packets, we've put some context of the way we've been going through the procurement processes on these things. We've tried over the years several methods, and we've come to the conclusion that the price and time contract with the adjusters on the metal and the plastic indices is the best way for us to really break up the contracts and put it out on the market so we can get the best participation and the best pricing with some certainty on the price adjustment on these items. Back about 10 to 12 years ago, the department tried a strategic sourcing type of a deal, what was an RFP to go to one source and procure this, and it hasn't worked well for us as far as diversifying the suppliers and the price advantages. We've tried that about a year ago again, to go that direction, and I think that was another test for us to kind of go back to price and time contract and put it out the way we have put it out. So we are pretty confident we've done everything possible to get the best participation and the best pricing in this mechanism, and that's what we're recommending to approve this contract.
Questions or comments from the commissioners?
None.
Can whoever made this determination that good faith was not required, can they explain to me in this contract why?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Bassam Abu Shakra, Power System Engineering Division.
Bassam, can I get Anselmo there too? Maybe have Anselmo go through that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Anselmo Collins, Acting Director, Supply Chain Services. This contract is a contract mainly for materials. During the preparation of the specification, the contract administrator, as well as my staff, which is Supply Diversity Group, reviewed the contract and looked at opportunities that could exist for subcontracting. In these type of contracts, usually the only thing that's available is transportation. And when that becomes a very small percentage, small meaning maybe 1 or 2% of it, it is found that it's not significant enough to actually make a requirement to do the good faith effort. So that is the reason why in this particular contract there was no good faith effort.
So we take the position that any time an item is a commodity, good faith is not required. That's basically her?
No, sir. No. Okay. As you made clear to me a couple of times already, you've told me that wherever it seems to be applicable and it makes sense to apply the good faith effort, we have been doing that. That's something that we've been doing for the last 6 months or so. One of the things I'm asking my staff is to put that together and tell me how many material contracts we have actually required good faith effort for. And that's being tracked now, and I'll be more than happy to provide information in a future meeting. But no, it's not an automatic no GFE. It's only if there's not substantial, trackable amounts of subcontracting available or possible where we don't require it. So it's not an automatic, sir.
So aside from this being a commodity contract, what was or was not present that made the good faith requirement not applicable?
In this particular case, there were we didn't see any other subcontracting opportunities. Sometimes you may have a material contract where there's a lot of customizing for DWP. I'll give you an example. A couple of months ago, we brought to you a contract for the purchase of vehicles. These vehicles were highly customized vehicles for the department.
I remember that.
All the work that was done in customizing it was subcontracted. Therefore, that particular contract did have the good faith effort requirement. So that's the kind of things that we look at when we're looking at commodity contracts.
But that's work beyond the commodity, right? The customization takes it out of the category of being commodity, right?
You can put it that way. We're purchasing a commodity, which is a vehicle. What it takes to get it to the standards that we need it is secondary. So as far as we're concerned, we're purchasing a commodity, not a service. We're paying for a particular vehicle to be delivered. And if it requires customization and there's an opportunity for subcontracting, then we achieve it.
So here's my dilemma. Most minority contractors don't have the ability to do highly specialized items, right? So they're out of that market, right?
Yes.
We take them out of the commodities market, which is the low-end market. There are probably less barriers to entry to them getting into that. So they're out of that market. And I'm not sure what's in the middle. It seems to me that most of the market is it's either areas minority contractors are priced out of because they don't have the economies of scale or the technology, or it's a commodity where they're being just excluded from that market.
Yes.
So it seems to me the one area that we should be promoting is we want to create more suppliers, right? Now, if those suppliers can't compete on price, then they lose. But right now, we're not giving them an opportunity to compete, and that's what I'm struggling with.
I have a question about just how the process works.
Yes.
I understand that with respect to the subcontracting opportunities, you're looking at the good faith estimate and whether subcontractors are minority business owned or women business owned. What about the master contractors?
What about
the master, the
prime contractor?
The prime contractor. Let's say that that's a minority business enterprise itself. Would the good faith apply there to the prime contract?
The requirement, depending on the kind of contract.
Would they get the benefit of it? Let's say that they're up against 3 other bidders. Would they get additional points in the bid process for?
There are no additional points being granted here, sir, regardless of who you are. When we put a requirement for good faith effort, we are requiring that any prime that's going to bid on the contract do the good faith in outreaching to subcontractors, whether MBs or WBEs, to participate in the contract.
But if the point of the program is to support minority and business-owned enterprises to be in the system and have a fair shake at something, shouldn't we be giving credit to prime contractors that are minority business or women business owned? I mean, maybe the ordinance doesn't provide that way, but can't we develop a policy to do that?
I think 209 is a problem.
Or even joint ventures where a prime contractor who's not a minority business enterprise contracts and joint ventures with a minority business enterprise on the prime contract.
Yes.
Because otherwise we're looking at just the transportation and the ancillary stuff, and that's not really achieving the goal of the policy.
Yes. One of the things that was done.
Let me add to that. What we want a larger supplier base. That's in our best interest. That will ultimately, we hope, will bring our costs down, right? It just seems to me the way we're not you guys. I think the city does this broadly by eliminating the good faith requirement in these circumstances. I think they shrink the base rather than broaden the base of suppliers.
I'm just wondering if we can use our economic influence to create new opportunities for people. And maybe it might require some creative thinking in our procurement department to be able to do that.
Well,
but I would encourage us to do that.
I could share with you that in the next couple of board meetings, one of the things that we're going to bring forward to the board is the establishment or proposal for the establishment of a small business enterprise program. The main difference between that and the current good faith effort policy that we have is that the good faith effort policy is looking at the effort that's being made by the primes, not at the actual participation of the subs. The small business enterprise that we are proposing would actually have mandatory goals that need to be met. And they'll be race neutral, they'll be gender neutral, but it will be for small business. So for example, if we had a particular project, let's say a construction project, and through research we determined that 25% of the contract could be subcontracted, that will be a requirement. So anybody who bids on that job would be required to provide that level of participation. And my expectation is that our numbers will increase dramatically because of that. Because right now, all we look at, based on the direction we have, is the effort. And I'm trying to figure out a way that we can actually look at the actual results themselves and provide that opportunity so we can actually will see subcontractors getting work on multiple contracts.
That sounds interesting.
Okay, I think it's good, but I do want to be clear on one thing. While I'm very interested in creating minority and women-owned businesses, what I'm most interested in is bringing down the cost of us doing business. That is whether it's the University of California or this kind. Our goal is to bring our costs down. All right, is there a motion to approve the item?
So moved.
Second?
Any objections? Item number 12. Thank you. That's a good explanation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 13.
Item 13 is a request for payment for the premiums for our excess workers' compensation liability insurance. The department is self-insured for the first $1 million of workers' compensation, but in the event of a catastrophic event, the department could run the risk of having multiple workers' comp claims. The department started carrying this in 1994, and since that time we've been able to get statutory or unlimited limits for our excess workers' comp. This year we came across where carriers are not willing to give us that high level. So what we're doing is we did have approval of this last year. If we could keep the same terms and conditions and not go above 15% of the cost. But now that we don't have statutory limits, we're coming back to you asking for approval to a maximum of $2.8 million in premiums and to get the highest level of coverage that we can. And we do have our brokers here to give us an update on that amount.
Let's see if one of the commissioners have questions.
I do.
Commissioner Noonan?
Thank you. One thing that I feel is missing from this request, which I respectfully request is included in future requests, is an actuary report, which obviously yields the premium dollars. So since I don't have the report, I'll ask you, since you're the experts, from the actuary report, looking back 10 to 20 years over the department's accidents, issues where insurance agencies have had to pay out, what are the chances of having a liability of $280 million?
I'd like to introduce Karen Bartak. She's our WBE participant with Bedford Falls Insurance, and she works with Wells Fargo. Just to make it clear that this insurance is primarily focused for the catastrophic loss. If we should have a big earthquake or something like that.
I understand that.
Nature. So, I mean, we've only had about 6 claims in the past, since '94, that have actually surpassed $1 million SIR. But that's not really geared for the few in between. It's really geared for the catastrophic loss. But Karen can speak more to the...
We don't have a formal, expansive actuarial report like you're suggesting. What we do have is something from ACE, who was willing...
Why don't you have an actuary report? This is a huge department.
I can't speak to why that hasn't been done.
Okay, well, I have a huge issue with that. Who's ever in charge, I have a huge issue with that. This is a very big dollar item, and I think that that's just basic, isn't it?
We have an actuary report for our active workers' comp and the liability that's incurred for those cases, and any incurred but not yet reported liabilities. We collect one of those on an annual basis. And Pinnacle is the company who does that study for us. But we've never requested an actuary report on a potential catastrophic event.
So then how do you base the premium?
Exactly.
I think, it's always been unlimited. So the broker would go out to the carriers and...
The carriers do their own actuarial modeling. Even if you guys were to have done an actuarial modeling yourself, your carriers would do their own as well.
And they didn't provide you with that report?
No, they did. We have it right here. So what they said was, relative to modeled events, what they call a small modeled event would be 150 to 250 million, around that area. A small event would be 127,000. I'm sorry. A medium event would be 256,903, and then what they think your largest catastrophic event would be 341,670.
I know, but in that report it should talk about historical data of the statistics of when we've experienced those kind of losses.
You know, it's because we're talking about catastrophic losses that have never occurred for you.
They've never occurred in the department over
We've
20
never
years?
had a catastrophic loss as an earthquake where we've lost thousands of employees. They're looking at the concentration of employees per facility. For example, at JFB, we have over 3,000 employees. If we had a catastrophic loss from an earthquake and we lost 2,000 employees, we would blow right through the $500 million right there. And so anything that's not covered by this insurance, the ratepayers would be paying for. So we're trying to hedge that and say, you know, we are due for the big one. Everyone knows that.
Okay, I think we're at a loss. I think I'm misunderstanding the request, because the way that this is titled is excess workers' compensation insurance. It's not catastrophic events. And basically in insurance, if there's bodily injuries that are substantial, typically on average, an insurance firm will have to pay approximately $2.3 million to that certain individual. In the worst circumstances, there's been reported a $10 million payout. And so my understanding is that this is a request for excess workers' compensation past that of the norm. Yet you are limiting this. You're saying this is just for catastrophic events?
No, it's not. We've had 6 claims that surpassed the $1 million SIR, self-insured retention, where the department handles the first $1 million since the inception of the policy.
And when was that?
94. So it's, you know, we have a really good and excellent safety program that helps. I mean, but there's always the occasional electrocution and things like that. I mean, that does happen. But really, it's only been 6 claims.
So as far as an actuarial analysis goes, an actuarial analysis only works if you have enough claims that you can promulgate future expectations. Because we're talking about events that have never occurred, because you've never had anything
I disagree. I think that report would work in our favors towards achieving a more cost-effective premium. It looks at all the data, not just the bad, but the good. And I think it's important that the people negotiating on behalf of the department use that to leverage our premiums.
They're looking at your loss history, but that's really just a very small part of it, frankly. When we're talking about insuring a catastrophic event, what they're looking at more than your individual experience is what is the potential of taking out enough people.
You keep going back and forth, and I thought that we already addressed this. You started talking about catastrophic events. I'm reading the language that was given to me as a commissioner, and it talks about excess workers' compensation. So you went from saying we've had 0 circumstances to, yes, we've had 6 excess workers' compensation accounts over the past 20 years. So I'd like us to be using the same language.
Okay, the thing is, the workers' compensation is if we had employees that were killed in a catastrophic loss, the state rate is $320,000 per employee. So we're looking at if we lost, you know, X number of employees in a catastrophic loss, this is what we would have to pay. There is no, you have to pay that. But we've only had over the $1 million SIR, which is the self-insured retention for the department, where the department handles their own workers' comp. We've only had 6 claims, individual claims. We have never had a catastrophic loss. We have never had an earthquake or a dam break and, you know, things like that. We would be obligated, the ratepayers would be obligated for the employees.
I understand.
So this covers not only the individual claims over $1 million, but also in the event of a catastrophic loss.
No, I understand that.
So I'm not clear as to what the question is.
I understand, because I'm not an insurance expert. It seems to me there's 2 components to what we're paying for. Part of the premium relates to the possibility of us having claims in excess of $1 million.
Whether it's injury, you know, long-term care, or death, you know.
But there's also the contingency that we might have other longer-term kind of catastrophic losses, right? So that's the second part of the premium.
But not necessarily longer term.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's just
catastrophic
excess of the 35. Your first policy is $35 million, excess of a $1 million self-insured retention.
Okay.
And then what you had on top of that used to be statutory limits. It used to be unlimited. That's no longer available in the marketplace. So what we were able to provide are options of $250 million excess of the 35 million, and then also 500 million excess of the 35 million.
Okay. So it seems to me that there are really two issues here, and then I'll throw a third one in. But the two issues that we've been addressing so far is the need and purpose for this excess workers' compensation policy, and whether that is something that the department prudently should be purchasing. That's one thing. Second thing is the fact that the market for this type of insurance has become very restricted, and that there aren't very many players out there. So then the question comes, is the premium that we've been quoted the best premium? If we've already answered yes that we need the insurance, now the question is the premium that you're proposing to us, that we're being asked to approve, the best premium that we possibly can get under these circumstances? So maybe we can just step beyond the whether we should have the insurance at all and go right to the premium question.
And may I just add to that? Sure. Because I wasn't clear on your math. You talk about that the request that's being made is reduced by reduced by about 45%. So instead of paying $2.2 million, we're going to pay $2.3 million. So can you reconcile that for me?
That must be on the rate. On the rate.
They have the.
She was referring to the premium
No, they
rate.
They don't have the one we got last night.
We were continuing to negotiate after you were given the paper that you have.
We were just given this on Friday.
Right. Well, these numbers came in last night.
Okay,
Yeah.
so give us the new numbers.
Okay. So what we had before, we had the $250 million limit with ACE, because Chartis, your former carrier, is gone. They're out of this line of business now. So we've got a $250 million limit with ACE at $700,000, and that should be the same as what you had, because that number didn't change. And then what we were able to do is get them to quote a $500,000 or a $500 million limit as an option, and they initially came in at $1.4 million, meaning that they wanted the same amount of money for that next $250 million limit as they did for the first $250 million limit, which is not so good. You know, there's usually a much better price break than that. But their whole posture was they have to evaluate all the accounts that they write in the Los Angeles area on an aggregate basis relative to their comp exposure, just like they do with earthquake modeling and on the property side. And for them to tie up this kind of capacity, it's an opportunity cost. So they can't use this capacity with other accounts if they use it with you. So they wanted that much money for that. We were able to get them down last night to $1,312,623. So that's really the final number. We've taken this all the way up the top at ACE. So it would give you a total between the Aegis $35 million, excess of $1 million quote, which hasn't changed, and then the ACE $500 million limit for a total of $2,122,236, which promulgates a rate of 0.2230 based on your payroll. Okay, and it amounts to a rate decrease from last year of 2.2%.
Okay, so again, give me the all-in number for last year for the unlimited statutory amount versus what you've negotiated last night. I just want to make sure I'm clear on those two numbers.
Last year is $2,040,493. Okay. Or a rate of 0.2182. Okay. This year, if you go with the $500 million limit, right, $2,122,236 for a rate of 0.2230, which amounts to a minus 2.2
okay,
rate decrease.
So I guess the commission is faced, we have a couple options. Do we go with the $250 million, do we get excess at all, number one? Number two, if we decide yes on that, do we go for $250 or do we go for $500? But last year we had unlimited statutory.
Let me ask one more question. You know, we got bids from multiple brokers, and this was the best bid?
We went to 18 markets on this. There are in reality only 3 or 4 excess comp markets. We went to 17. We went to 17 people that don't even write this line of business because we were hoping that there was enough money in it, and because it was a $35 million attachment point that we could generate some interest. Mm-hmm. And between, you guys don't have a TPA, you self-administer your claims, so that knocked a bunch of carriers out right there. We couldn't come up with the NAIC codes for the payroll. That knocked a bunch of other people out. A lot of them just don't write excess workers' comp, and we were trying to get them to get some interest, and they just didn't want to do it. Some of them didn't want to do utility companies. So it was just a variety of things, but we just completely canvassed the market and went back.
What did we end up with? How many bids?
One.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was really an arduous process even getting this, and they felt that
So is this.
And they've actually pulled their quotes almost 3 times, so we're, trying to keep them.
What is the premium going to be if we just elected for the 250? If we got the lower amount?
That's kind of the interesting one, and that's the quote that they kept trying to pull. That's at $700,000. Your total for that is $1,509,613, which is a rate of 0.1587, which is a 27.3% rate decrease from last year. So you're going from unlimited limits to 250, but if you believe the actuarial modeling that ACE did, that would tide you over for a medium catastrophic event, but not a large catastrophic event. And in their mind, it would be like a truck bomb coming into your building, totally taking everybody out, or an earthquake, taking out Ferraro and some of the other locations.
And the $500 million covers the high catastrophic event?
Sorry?
The $500 million.
Oh, they all do.
They all
It's
have
the
the same
same
coverages, it's just a limit.
It's just higher,
No, just
more money
how much
available.
damage would you experience in a bigger catastrophe than in a medium-sized catastrophe, right?
Right, because if your loss exceeded whatever you're buying, you're back on the hook on top of that.
Obviously, as a commissioner, it would make me nervous to be underinsured in this vital area. But also, we have to be mindful of the cost. Now, there's one other element that I'd like to throw out there, which is your request for approval for future years to just lock in insurance as long as it doesn't exceed the 15% increase over the premium that we approved this year. I have a little problem with that. I think that this is so important, and it involves a policy decision that we're making now that now it's changed from unlimited statutory to an actual number that we have to project and figure out what is prudent for the department. I would not feel comfortable just letting this go on an automatic basis. I think this is something that you should come back every year on, just to throw another little wrinkle in the discussion.
Okay, is there a motion?
It's not a wrinkle, it's a pertinent point.
Can I ask just a quick question that might be helpful? Does our Intermountain Power Service Corporation agreement require us to carry any specific coverage on excess coverage?
No, there is no specific as long as we cover, and they are agreeing. They were fortunate enough because they don't have the earthquake exposure. They were able to get statutory limits for their policy.
With ACE, it's the same carrier who's quoting your 250 and 500 million options.
Okay, thank you.
All right. What's compelling to me is it seems to be that there's only one game in town. There's only one bidder on this. Maybe we could have got a better deal, but it doesn't appear that we could. So, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'm going to reluctantly opt for the all-in, amount of the $500 million. I just would be very concerned if in the event of a major catastrophe being underinsured.
But only for the 1 year.
But only for the 1 year, yes.
Okay.
That's all they've offered.
That would, right.
Really.
Well, but I mean, in terms of what the resolution had asked for, I would like to modify the resolution to say that we're only approving it for this year, and that next year you'll have to come back to us again. And on that basis, I'd like to make that.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to question that. They've stated that in 20 years, there's been 6 cases. So are you sure you want to double the amount?
Well, it's not really doubling the amount from what we've had in the past, because we had unlimited statutory limits.
Which we didn't use.
Which we didn't use, but there hasn't been a 7.0 earthquake in L.A. I mean, who knows what could happen? That's the thing that makes me nervous, is if the department were underinsured and, God forbid, something horrendous, a higher level of casualty occurred and we're underinsured, that could really create even more problem for the department in that respect. I don't know, as a commissioner, I feel, prescient enough to predict whether we're going to have a medium or a higher grade casualty over time.
I think for me it's belts and suspenders, but I'm willing to pay the extra $600,000 to have both of those.
Okay.
That's it.
Well,
And the superstitious one says if we go for the lower amount, then we're guaranteeing that something horrible is going to happen.
Well, the market is really in turmoil right now, too. And frankly, because I'll be marketing your account again next year, it's easier to get lower options than it is to go back up. So if you were to get the 250 this year, the 500 might not be available next year, based on where the market's going. So you are
Get
kind of
it
protecting
while you
yourself
can
from-
kind of thing?
You're kind of protecting yourself for next year, too, by doing that.
Really? It's a one-year deal.
No, it's a one-year deal, but they're more inclined to want to give you what they already have
But they
than they are
can't,
to give you
they're
more.
not contractually obligated to, though.
No, they're not.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I would say that's not your strongest reason for
No,
approving this.
it doesn't make any difference to me.
Other comments?
Yeah, just for the record, I didn't like this process. I felt that there were essential things missing, essential due diligence missing. I didn't like the reporting of the memo. But because this is a tight market and because this insurance is expiring at the end of this month, I will second. But I'm glad that we're only contractual for 1 year.
Any objections? Hearing none, item 14 passes. Item 13 passes, excuse me. There's actually a speaker, for item 14. I think we have a speaker card.
Yes, the speaker is Dr. Tom Williams.
After the presentation?
No, you can go first.
That's a file.
It's just a file.
Yes. Dr. Williams, did you change your name? I thought your name was Clyde Williams.
Clyde Thomas Williams, sir.
Okay.
So I'm really
Sometimes Tom, sometimes
Yeah.
Clyde.
It's after, last year.
Frank in Ernest, Frank in New York, Ernest in Chicago, is that?
Clyde sounds more debonair. I'd go with Clyde.
Come on, after listening to Insurance for All afternoon.
No matter what.
But call yourself what you'd like. We'll call you what we like.
Can you give us an org chart?
Welcome.
Whatever was going to be presented in the item 14, I would prefer to listen to what item 14 is. However, I would ask that since the financial services organization is within the joint system, I think, isn't it redundant? Where's the water? Where's the power for the month of August? Thank you.
Any other questions on item 14A? Those items are being filed. I think it's time to go into closed session unless I'm missing something. Mr. Brown?
Yes, the board shall publicly report any action taken in closed session and the vote or abstention of every member thereon in accordance with Section 54 and 957.1 of the California Government Code.
Okay, we'll have closed session here.